What I really want to talk about is the reality of the job. So the strategy, the pressure, the impact. And then there's this big piece of invisible work that I kind of want to highlight. And just introductory as an example, I'm just going to bring up an example. Let's say your sales representative walks into a meeting, already knows the executive's communication style, budget cycle, active initiatives, and also the question that moves the conversation from polite to meaningful and impactful. But then we have a field marketer hosted the exact same executive a month prior, and all she has is hoping that she will recognize him from his LinkedIn picture. Big difference, right?
Big difference, but
Well, so 2026, right? It's so hard to think. And I'm 3 years ago, this wasn't really possible because of things we were dealing with in society with disease and other things. But the real resurgence is I think people crave contact. I think people want to talk to people in person. They feel the conversation goes deeper and longer and more fulfilling. I believe that sellers are out there engaging in a one-to-many aspect and see the most return on value of their time is to speak to many people at one time in a group event, either a fireside chat kind of situation, roundtables, or, really the dinner. Whenever I was a seller and we were trying to get things launched at Risk IQ and trying to get in front of as many people, there's a big difference in impact between sitting on a stage and having a conversation and talking about industry and talking about, best practice and maybe even talking about your business, as opposed to 10 people around the table talking about things in their lives. And then whenever you get to it, you talk about business because you build a personal rapport. And I think it's the individual relationship that we're having a renaissance of where that, we as business people have tried to maximize the return on this remote work. And I think that we have done a great job at it. But I also believe that we now crave human connection more than ever. And I do believe that that is how we seek out information. And with so much information just being automated and generated, how do we hear what people really think? And that's to go and meet them in person.
Yeah.
Well, they got a challenge, right? It's all about getting people in a room, and we put on a tremendous amount of field marketing events at every company I've worked for. I've been at Microsoft, and they have a whole engine that does it. Smaller company like Risk IQ, we would hold multiple events in a month. And there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's a lot of spreadsheet management, a lot of pinging the salespeople, pinging the CEO, other individuals, channel partners, getting the people into the room, focusing on where to have the event. I mean, there is just a lot of moving parts that are always juggling. And we would somehow make it pull off, right? We would just, we all kind of understood somewhat of what we did, but it was a pretty big process that didn't have the easiest way to follow things because we wouldn't know who was going to come until really the day of the event or a few days before we knew who signed up.
Right. Was this successful because there was a hero? And everyone says, I want to be the hero, right? No, but in an organization that's maturing and that's growing, it's scaling, you don't want heroes. Like you want to have them in, like in the fantasy movies, like you only want to have the hero right when you really need the hero, right? But you want things to operate because it was designed. It was, structurally sound, right? From an architecture and process engineering perspective, right? And I feel like field marketers are expected to be heroes all the time, right? Like,
yeah, I think that's a good analogy, and to scale something that you want to do over and over as a sales leader, especially when they're successful, it's like you got to call in a hero every time to do it.
Because it's a new term. We are coining the term of field marketing enablement. But let's talk about why is field marketing enablement so difficult, right? What do you is it tools? Is it the knowledge, the data? Like what?
It's kind of all those, man, to be honest, right? I mean, but it's a lot of work to get people to show up to an event. especially if they're a stranger.
Yeah.
And it just takes a lot of pushing and driving, not only from getting the attendees there, but getting the content ahead of time, getting the messaging right to get the people in the room. Is it of value? Where are you going to have it was one of our big things. We used to host threat hunter workshops all over the country. And where do you host those at? If you can't get a university or a partner to host it, well, what's next?
Yeah.
And then, but even in the smaller venues, right, where you want to host a dinner to some people that are super busy in the executive ranks of security organizations, because, things go sideways at the last second. But, how do you know you can get them in the room? How do you know there's not conflict? It's just, there's a lot of things that can go wrong.
And it's the quality versus the quantity, right? So because there's a lot of companies that you can say, hey, I need to do a dinner in Albuquerque, and they're like, cool, we're going to get you 10 warm bodies. And you're like, okay, I don't need 10 warm bodies. I need 10 right bodies, right? Or yes. I'd rather take 2 right bodies than 10 warm bodies, right?
Rare. I had one woman that did that all the time in my career, and she was the best at it. It was, I had a few other people that would do some of it of who they knew, if they had a relationship with them, but we have a relationship. It's the people that you don't know that you need to have that information so that you can build a relationship with them.
Yeah.
So it's very rare. Some people might feel differently. Oh no, I don't buy it. I did too many of these things with too many randos showing up and people that you try to drive in that were actually good people to contact with, but you just don't have enough to really drive the conversation.
You see, but I think there's also something that often gets missed, which is that a lot of times, you spend $23,000, $25,000 doing an event, right? How do we compare the ROI of the dinner in Denver versus the dinner in Chicago, right? If we aren't baselined on readiness, is it just, Sarah in Denver is less charming than Bob in Chicago, so that's why Bob closed more deals from that dinner? Like, how much do we attribute? I think it's important to baseline it and then be able to compare, oh, we did a dinner, we're expecting this much pipe from it. Everyone's equally ready. We follow the methodology. That's how you scale. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's a little bit of it. I mean, you want enough to where it covers the one event, right? You need one deal to come out of something like that, just from the time sink that goes into it with marketing resources. But there isn't a great way to compare one event to another, nor is there an equalizer.
5, you might have 1 out of those 10 who's actually in market. So, that $25,000 dinner, what's the pipeline opportunity on it? Because you start to say it's 5x, it's $150,000 opportunity. It's maybe you got a 10% chance of that. You got a 90% chance of a goose egg here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I let me open it up, because I think there's one topic that I just think is amazing of what we've done here, and really it goes back to just a few weeks ago, and everybody's wondering about AI and how do we take it on, how do we adopt it, and you set a goal for the whole business. And it was to be an agentic company first, i.e. anything that we can do with agents, let's make the agents do it so that we can drive scale. But the bigger point of it is I think you slammed a deadline in early because we need to move, right? And our deadline is June 1st, right? If I'm not mistaken. And you put mandates across the entire company. And we all have different roles of doing different things. We've been leaning in very heavily about AI and how to use it. And, we were all kind of dipping our toes in it a little bit here and there. And then all of a sudden we both saw kind of about 2 months ago, we saw what the future looks like. And we've been real deep into it. And it's time to bring everybody along for the journey.
Yeah.
Just take us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I've been obviously tracking, working, doing a bunch of the stuff in the AI space, like everyone else. Like, put a little AI hot sauce on everything and figure that out. And about 2-3 months ago, I started to really, sink my teeth in. And it went from, okay, that's interesting, to, okay, that's really interesting, to, I think I have to rethink life, kind of thing. Right now, when I started the company, I moved from being a group CISO. I declined a major group CISO role to start and bootstrap the firm. And back then, we didn't have AI, nowhere near the capability. Everything was like remote process automation, data science, all that, all the fancy stuff there, and machine learning. But when I started to really understand like the world of possibilities, it became a change or die situation, right? Like, and I think every company actually has to be thinking about it in the same way. The only companies I think that are actually safe, like literally actually safe, are going to be the major brands with some sort of tremendous brand presence. And I'm talking like JP Morgan's of the world, Walmart, right? A massive physical component that can't be replicated in the same way. But if they are a knowledge base, expertise, process, they need to think about, could somebody come in, build my business with AI, and what would that look like? And I think you actually have to try to do it. And so when I started to try to do that, it was okay, we need to have a full pivot here. And normally we have to serialize that, but AI does give us the ability to say, I can move really fast here. I can do this here. I can do this here. And it's a very, very different muscle. In the past, we'd spend the muscle trying to solve it. Now we're trying to use the muscle to create the architecture so that the agents can solve it. And that feels odd. So cyber events, it is like this wild west. Like, we have so many, we got the big conferences. Right. We've got little regional ones, and then there's like these dinner things, right? And we've been talking and doing stuff about verified events. But before we get into those specifically, like, what's your take on the landscape of, like, why do we have so many boutique dinners everywhere, every city going on? What do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it's an innate need that we have in the community for connection. Our jobs are thankless jobs to where we don't get credit for a lot of things that we do, and we're constantly fighting fires. So at the end of the day, you need connection. You want to be around people that get it, people that know you, people that have already welcomed you. So I think the dinners are a signal for us that we're looking for connection, and we're looking for our people. And so that's what the dinners do for us. It connects us.
It's funny when we think about like 2026, right? Like, we live in this world of like AI, everything's online, and you go back to like when we were kids, and it was like, just go outside, don't come in, right? Like, and like
it's
all physical, right? Is it just us getting back to the roots of like, hey, we need that human connection? That's why we just want to break bread with people.
No, definitely. I think so. I think after COVID, I think obviously COVID separated us, and we went into our own silos, and so now it's our coming out time. It's been some years after COVID, and I think everyone want to live out loud. It's a personal thing that I even call for myself. It's LOL, live out loud, and just reconnect with people.
Exactly. Like, okay, I want this steak, but like, let me sit through that. But like,
yeah,
that's not how you do your verified events, is it?
No, definitely it's not. But I'm going to answer that question. But how did you, when you go to those timeshare, how do you feel? Do you feel Is it kind of crummy? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
it feels like, you know what, that you're like, I have to sit here, but I don't even want to pay attention. So let me just like,
Right.
you know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
like just get through it. So I can get back to my vacation kind of thing, right? Like,
Right. Exactly.
Dinners are the same. Those dinners are the same way, but like you have a totally different way that you do your verified events. Tell me about it.
Okay, so the thing that we do in our events is it's about human connection. It's about, so all of our events are +1. So we make sure that spouses are included, and not
Plus
just
one, love it.
included. It's they have a seat at the table, and so this consumes our day. This is our life, and so but we now never had a connection to bring our life into what we do, and so we operate fractionally. And so for our events, it's bring your whole self, meaning also your partner.
Yeah. But not your kids. No kids.
But no kids. Actually, sometimes we will have events planned where we'll do a movie theater or something like that.
Okay, so it depends, but generally it's your spouse or a significant other or whatever.
Right. But we are looking at that whole self instead of the fractional part of you. And so with our events, most of the time we don't do steakhouses. Most of the time we try to pick things that get us moving, just a natural movement. If we have dinners and then it's not, you sit and you talk to the people at the table, we structure it to where just think it's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas dinner with family, and you actually like the family that you're having with. And so that's what we create, and we have real conversations about burnout, about just life, and you would be surprised the conversation that we get into, just about creating a safe space where it's not just a technical, we're there to learn, but there's hundreds of spaces like that. So let's do something different where we see the human side of us instead of just the technical hat that we wear. We're much more than that.
I mean, man, it was a nightmare. And at that point, it was around 2023, like early 2023, when I realized, wow, field marketers do not get enough credit. So that's when I kind of shifted in there. Fast forward, a few years later to, February, that's when I did a radical shift in my business to double downing on, is it double downing or doubling down? I don't know. Whatever.
Don't ask a German. It's my second language.
Okay, so doubling down on field because of AI. And what do I mean by that? AI is serving us greatly, in my opinion. It has its downfalls, and one of those downfalls is silos and disconnection between actual, human connection and real life experience, because we're chatting with bots and with agents and with our devices, and we're allowing, automation to take over our efficiency, if you will, and the success of our programs. And so I think, if anything, now more than ever, and I think I've talked quite a bit now, but now more than ever, human proximity is a differentiator, especially in the security space.
Is like it is a niche. It is something that people have needed for some time, and it's taken this long for it to finally arrive. And I think there's going to be a lot of success around it, especially around artificial intelligence, everything. Because the in-person meetings are coming back, and these events are going to get only better. So
you're spot on. We're seeing more and more local events, right? We've so far this year, we've in our event calendar, we've seen more events by this time in the year than any other year past, right? Huge increase in regional events, right? And then we're not even talking just the boutique dinners that these companies and vendors are doing, right? We're seeing these trends happen, but I think it like we said, it comes down to a first time, first in class, first in market solution built for field marketing. Field marketing enablement is what we're calling this. Powered by data and driving that organization so people can actually realize a meaningful ROI.